following program contains material that may be too intense for some viewers. Parental discretion is advised.
Hello, creeps, and welcome to Nerds from the Crypt. I'm your host, Eli Grimes, and this is the first episode, the inaugural episode. How lucky you are to be here with me, talking about one of my favorite shows of all time, and that is Tales from the Crypt. And I decided about a year ago that I wanted to review all Tales from the Crypt and get all my friends involved. And I have recorded several episodes here and there with my friends, but we just could never get together for the first episode. So I'm going to do it by myself. Maybe the first two. I might also do an All Through the House by myself as well. But I got some of my friends from my old sketch comedy group that are going to stop by and tell us what they think about certain episodes. But we got to start right here. First off, if you don't know anything about EC Comics, whom originally published the comic book Tales from the Crypt in the 50s, here's a quick brief history of how this TV show came to be from its humble roots in EC Comics. Tales from the Crypt was published from 1950 to 1955, along with sister publications like The Haunt of Fear and The Vault of Horror. They featured morality tales in which the main character, a terrible person, would get their comeuppance in a gruesome way. The art style was very detailed and often shocking, especially for the time. Although popular in the 40s and 50s, comics as a whole came under attack by parents, clergymen, the government that claimed that comics led to juvenile delinquency and illiteracy. Then came the introduction of the Comic Code, which led EC Comics publisher Bill Gaines to discontinue the comic altogether. Don't feel too bad for Bill Gaines, because eventually he did publish Mad Magazine. In 1989, heavy hitter directors and producers Joel Silver, Richard Donner, Robert Zemeckis, and Walter Hill all came together to produce, write, and direct an anthology movie based on the EC comic Tales from the Crypt. The original plans changed, though, because it wasn't a commercially viable genre at the time, with the only exception being Creep Show. They instead pitched the idea to HBO, with the original episode consisting of 3 back-to-back stories, directed by Walter Hill, Robert Zemeckis, and Richard Donner, respectively.
Now that's entertainment!
Wasn't that informative? Don't you feel like you learned something today? Isn't that amazing? Yeah, that's the history of EC Comics and the TV show Tales from the Crypt and how it came to be. So we're going to start from the beginning, the very first episode that aired in the trilogy. That was June 10th, 1989. This is The Man Who Was Death, directed by Walter Hill, who also directed 48 Hours and The Warriors, and starring William Sadler, who in this goes by Bill Sadler. And you may remember him from such things as Die Hard 2. He's the bad guy in Die Hard 2. In The Green Mile, he's in The Shawshank Redemption. He is also one of my favorite things. He is Death in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, who makes an appearance in a later episode of Tales from the Crypt, but man, that is forever from now. We'll talk about that later. So William Sadler stars as Niles Talbot, who is a executioner going on 12 years. He's just got the greatest drawl in this. Like, he is, even when he's not in something by Stephen King, he just is like the perfect Stephen King character. And that's why I think in this, he's like rocking that accent real hard, where he's like, opens up the thing where he's like, "This here's Mr. Charlie Ledbetter.
This here is Charlie Ledbetter."
It's narrated by him, and he, talks to us, the audience, several times. There are a lot of shots where you see him speaking to us directly, breaking the fourth wall. And it reminds me a lot of another movie I like. And this has probably been done in a million things, but for some reason when I watched this recently, because I haven't seen this in a little while, when I watched it, I was reminded of SLC Punk. Does a very similar thing where he talks to, it's narrated by him, but then also there's shots where he is directly talking to you with action going on in the background, and everybody acts like they can't see him talking to the audience. So, it's very good. And with the recent movie like, Deadpool, things like that, fourth wall breaking, it's nothing new, kids. All right? Other people have done it, but this is what this is like, a lot of fourth wall stuff. First, he tells us about Charlie Ledbetter, who is, killed his boss, or was wanting to go kill his boss, and accidentally shot someone else as well. And so he's going to get the electric chair, and it's just a real pathetic scene where this guy is just screaming for the governor's going to call, he's going to give me a stay of execution, and, Niles Talbot doesn't want to hear any of that shit, and he just says, he says you're going to do the hot squat.
I'll knock it off, Charlie. You're being some damn chicken shit. You killed somebody, now you're going to do the hot squat.
Which I never really heard that in anything else when it comes to getting the electric chair. It sounds like, I don't know, I just think of poop. I don't know, maybe you don't. I don't know about you, but it's just the hot squat.
Do the hot squat.
It's that voice. It's something about that is just kind of mesmerizing. I really like the score to this episode. It's very like circusy sounding. It's got some rock stuff happening too, but like that opening theme. Really sets the tone. So basically the whole plot of the thing is that Niles Talbot here has been an executioner. He loves his job. He's really into electricity because it's clean, so he says. And the death penalty is suspended, so they no longer need an executioner in this particular state, where they never say where it is. Of course, it's just, any town, USA. So he has no job. He's out on the street. So he finds the biggest pieces of shit in society and decides to kill them, judge, jury, and executioner. Get it? Like a guy who killed somebody and he gets set free in a courtroom. The guy's named Jimmy Flood gets set loose. This is the guy from Terminator 2 that Schwarzenegger says, I need your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle. And he says, you forgot to say please, and puts the cigar out on his chest, and a big fight scene ensues, and eventually gives him his motorcycle. That guy's got a very distinct, road mappy face. It's the same, and I forgot that totally. But basically, when he finally gets set up at the end, it just conveniently, the death penalty is voted back in. So he's going to be executed when, if he got busted for this before, he would have just gone to jail. But of course, in an ironic twist, the way they do on Tales from the Crypt, he's going to get the chair. So he's doing the same thing as Charlie Ledbetter at the beginning. He is screaming the governor's going to call. He's sitting there frying, head smoking, and he says,
I didn't want no haircut. They said that was a mistake because my head might catch on fire from the electricity when they juice me. I told them, don't worry. The governor going to call.
Okay, the beginning, the Crypt Keeper puppet to me eventually hits its stride about and the character is, John Kassir is awesome. It's such a great voice. At the beginning of this episode, the Crypt Keeper is just kind of slow moving, slow talking. He's not really funny. He's got a bug zapper and he's talking about electricity. And at the end, he does the laugh because he zaps himself and the safety first. And, you can see some of the spark of what eventually I consider the Crypt Keeper, and it's just not quite there yet. But at the time, it was a really nice puppet. It's very gross and detailed and things like that, but it's just not quite the Crypt Keeper that I know a lot of people think of. He just seems a little bit more bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, if you will, later on. So the Crypt Keeper segment's not really much to write home about, but a lot of people do remember him in the electric chair, zapping himself, and it's I've seen a GIF and a meme or memes and whatever. I've even made a few myself because people just like that image of the Crypt Keeper in the electric chair. But yeah, this is the first episode. It's a great first outing. But of course, that night you got 3 in a row to finally, kind of see what this show is about. It's really cool to have a show where it's a different director every time, different cast every time. Grisly endings. People, get this show is all about comeuppance, and this guy totally gets his in the end because just because these people are bad, you have no right to go out and just kill people you see fit because you're, passing some sort of judgment on them. That's the whole, moral of the story, I guess. Is it the most exciting episode of Tales from the Crypt? No, I'm a big William Sadler fan, and he is very synonymous with Tales from the Crypt as it goes on. You probably know him as Breaker in Demon Knight, of course. So when they made their first movie, they called on the guy from the first episode to be the main or one of the main characters in that film. He's in Bordello Blood as well. So William Sadler's awesome. I'm a big fan of his in a lot of things, and so that's probably sways me into thinking this is good, but I give this one a thumbs up, definitely, and it's one to check out and kind of see where this show started. That was Nerds from the Crypt. We are going to review every single Tales from the Crypt episode from beginning to end. A couple surprises thrown in for spice. You can check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/nerdsfromthecrypt, all one word. Also on Twitter at CryptNerds. We appreciate you stopping by, and take us out. Danny Elfman.